Daily life in ancient Babylon, laws, culture, and civilization. The year is 1750 BC, and you are standing in one of the world's earliest and most influential civilizations. The sun beats down on the crowds of people from all walks of life who come to trade, visit, or simply soak up the vibrant atmosphere of the capital of the Babylonian Empire, located in present-day Iraq. Among them is a young scribe carefully copying down a cuneiform tablet, while his master conducts business. Nearby, artisans shape metal, stone, and clay into intricate works of art, the rhythmic clang of hammer on anvil blending with the lilting sounds of merchants' calls. Over it all, the massive ziggurat of Marduk, the patron deity of Babylon, pierces the sky, serving as both a religious sanctuary and a symbol of the empire's power. Life in ancient Babylon was a tapestry woven with threads of trade, religion, and agriculture. Let's pull on one of these threads and see where it leads us. We are standing in the fields outside the city walls, where an ox is being sacrificed to the gods. Babylon was an agricultural society, but its rulers knew they couldn't rely solely on farming. So they built canals to divert water from the Euphrates River for irrigation, creating fertile lands that produced wheat, barley, and vegetables. But it wasn't just about food. The same canals also transported goods and people throughout the empire, connecting Babylon to its many provinces. One such province is Elam, known for its horses. And you can hear the thundering of hooves now, as a group of horsemen thunder across the plains. They are returning from a raid on the nomadic tribes to the east, bringing back slaves and plunder to add to the wealth of Babylon. Babylonian society was rigidly stratified, with kings at the top, followed by priests, nobles, and merchants, then artisans, laborers, and finally, slaves. But even within these strata, there was some mobility. A scribe, for example, could advance to become an administrator through education and hard work. And if you were a slave, you might find yourself elevated to a lower social rank if you purchased your freedom. Speaking of scribes, let's return to our young scribe, who has just completed copying a set of laws on a clay tablet. He hands it over to his master, who is a judge. This is no ordinary set of laws. It is a copy of the Code of Hammurabi, one of the first comprehensive legal codes in history. The code, which was inscribed on a black stone stele over 400 years earlier, established a uniform set of laws throughout the Babylonian Empire. It covered everything from property rights to marriage to criminal law. Under Hammurabi's code, justice was not blind, but heavily influenced by social status. A free man could put a slave to death for an offense. That would only result in a fine or imprisonment for a member of the upper classes. Nevertheless, the code was remarkably progressive for its time. For example, it gave women the right to own and manage property, and it allowed for divorce under certain circumstances. You may be thinking, that sounds fair. Now let's explore the bustling streets of Babylon and see how the code played out in practice. Here in the marketplace, a merchant is complaining to a judge that a customer has damaged his goods. The judge hears the case and rules that the customer must pay for the damages. But that's not the end of the story. Under the Code of Hammurabi, the merchant is entitled to more than just the value of the damaged goods. He is also entitled to double that value as compensation for his trouble. The concept of double compensation was a way of ensuring that people were fully made up for any losses they suffered. But it also created a potential for abuse. Imagine that a baker is delivering a loaf of bread to a customer when suddenly the customer claims that the bread is not up to his standards. The baker knowing that he will be held to the letter of the law, demands double payment for the bread before the customer will accept the delivery. This sort of extortion became so common that judges eventually had to rule against it in individual cases. But the Code of Hammurabi was not just about economics. It also dealt with matters of life and death. In the town square, a priestess is about to perform a ritual to determine the guilt of a woman accused of witchcraft. The charge is serious and the punishment is severe, but the evidence is flimsy at best. The priestess waves a burning torch over the accused woman and declares her guilty. Under the code, there was no presumption of innocence. If you were accused of a crime, you were expected to prove your innocence. And what better way to do that than by sacrificing a goat to the gods? The goat is led forward and the woman places her hands on its head. If the goat is healthy and strong, the woman is innocent. But in this case, the goat is sickly and the crowd turns on the woman. She is dragged away to be executed. But before she is put to death, she has one last chance to save herself. In Babylonian law, a person could avoid execution for a serious crime by confessing and implicating others in the crime. The woman confesses to everything and names the king's son as her accomplice. The crowd gasps, but the damage is done. The woman is led to the nearest river and drowned. We may think of Babylon as a place of great antiquity, but its story is deeply intertwined with our own. From the rule of law to the balance of power between the sexes, many aspects of modern life have their roots in ancient Babylon. In exploring its past, we gain a deeper understanding of the world we live in today. As you make your way through the crowded streets of Babylon, you can't help but feel a sense of awe at the grandeur of this ancient city. The towering ziggurats, the bustling marketplaces, and the imposing court of Hammurabi all speak to the power and influence of this once great empire. But as the sun begins to set over the horizon, casting long shadows across the land, you can't shake the feeling that something is missing. You realize that Babylon was more than just a city of bricks and mortar. It was a living, breathing community of people with hopes, dreams, and aspirations just like you. You think of the farmers who worked the fertile fields outside the city walls, providing food not only for themselves, but for the entire empire. You think of the merchants who traveled far and wide, bringing back exotic goods to sell in the marketplace. And you think of the scribes and judges who kept the wheels of government and commerce turning smoothly. You also think of the slaves who toiled under the hot sun, building the great ziggurats and palaces of Babylon. Their contributions may have been forgotten, but without their hard work, none of Babylon's impressive monuments would have ever been built. As darkness falls and the stars begin to twinkle in the night sky, you feel a sense of connection to the people of Babylon, a people who lived thousands of years ago, yet whose story is still relevant to us today. You realize that Babylon was not just a city, it was a microcosm of the human experience. A place where ordinary people went about their daily lives, trying to make the best of the world they lived in. And as you leave the city of Babylon behind, you carry with you a newfound appreciation for the complexity and richness of the ancient world. You understand now that Babylon was not just a place of law and order, but a place of life, culture, and humanity. It was a place where people loved and lost, laughed and cried, dreamed and schemed, just like us.